I started using drugs drugs and alcohol when I was 14. By 17, I was using needles for coke and meth, taking any pill I can get, smoking boatloads of weed.
I didn't know where I was going to stay, how I was going to get my next meal.
Me and my wife were on the streets, sleeping wherever, you know what I mean, at parks.
You don't really know what the person's been going through, what the person went through, what had transpired in the life of that child or that lady or that single male in the corner.
We were on our deathbeds, like we were malnourished, we were dehydrated, we were, with what little money we had, we were drinking.
When I was running the streets, I needed a lot of serving. And people served me a lot. And I never really appreciated it enough, but here I get to give back. And that's just awesome. It's really awesome.
It's a population growth no one wants to see. The result of various journeys sparked by unemployment, mental health crises, and substance abuse. On any given night, hundreds of people in the Albuquerque area are homeless in some form, whether it be in emergency shelters, transitional housing, or on the streets.
Homeless is a huge problem here, and we want to help that problem. We want to get people off the streets. We want to just help as many people as we can.
Angela Dapo is Chief Financial Officer for Joy Junction, a nonprofit homeless recovery mission based in Albuquerque. The faith-based ministry was founded in 1986 by Dr. Jeremy Reynalds, a man who himself was no stranger to homelessness.
Hi, Charlotte. How's the cardboard truck looking? You got any community service that could come out here and do that? Originally, federal marshals brought me to Joy Junction's doorstep. I came to New Mexico in chains. Been arrested in just outside of Yuma, Arizona, smuggling aliens. And got convicted of aiding and abetting a minor misdemeanor. It was a plea bargain, and got a 45-day sentence. Spent 2 weeks in Yuma County Jail. They brought me to Albuquerque, then they opened the door and said, well, good luck. Well, later on that night, I wound up coming to Joy Junction.
Robin Morsko knows Joy Junction better than most. He first came to their doorsteps on September 30th, 1998. Although he had found various means of employment as an adult, he wasn't leading what he calls a successful life.
I was a criminal. I was a hardcore drug addict. I wound up smuggling aliens, and I was living with a gang family and big-time dope dealers, and one of their friends, recruited me to drive for him, and I got popped getting out of Yuma.
While incarcerated, Robin heard of Joy Junction from another inmate.
I have people come in to our shelter from California, Florida, Washington, all over United States.
Just like the organization's founder. Born in England, Jeremy Reynolds felt like an outsider for the better part of his young life. Growing up in boarding schools, he always felt compelled to help the disenfranchised, a trait that led him to the gospel.
Kids are always making fun of him because he has stuttered. And aside from that, he has a lot of things that make him feel uncomfortable, and kids are making fun of him.
Elma Reynolds married Jeremy in 2015 after a courtship on, of all things, eHarmony.
I talked to the Lord, is he the one? And honestly, up to now, I could sense it in my heart when the Lord spoke in my heart that, Elma, you and Jeremy together, I will use you in a way that you never imagined.
With just $50 in his pocket, Jeremy landed in Florida, where he met his first wife, Sylvia. Plunging himself into a growing family and full-time volunteer ministry, the young household found themselves without a home in 1981. Finding temporary housing for his wife and children, Reynolds set out to find a way to provide for them and answer his calling to service.
Stayed there in Carmona, Arizona for several weeks. And then from there, with much prayer, he's praying for God's direction, he decided to travel to Santa Fe. In that time frame, that's the time when, experiencing those very hard time being on the road and no money, and really make him feel like wanted to give up.
According to the United States Interagency on Homelessness, more than 3,000 New Mexicans will be homeless on any given day.
Nobody sees the hard parts when you're going through that type of life.
Marcos Atwood is resident service manager at Joy Junction. He's like many that found the shelter during the darkest chapter of his life.
We became homeless because of my addiction with meth, weed, and alcohol. And my wife found this place, and we came here to try to get our life back.
We help people of all backgrounds.
We gotta find a way to come, figure out what their problem is, be it drugs, alcohol. I think they're just stuck in that vicious cycle.
Sometimes, unfortunately, we're serving the mental illness people, and they do need help. And if there's somebody who's being released from the hospital, or police that are looking for a place for a family, or somebody with domestic violence that needs a place to stay, they bring them here.
Many New Mexicans find themselves homeless due to other reasons as well: sudden unemployment, medical emergencies that cause financial crisis within the home, two of the largest contributors to the problem since COVID-19.
Dr. Reynolds didn't see a homeless person as a homeless person. He used to say, that is not a status of a person. You're not born with a label that says you're homeless. You are a child of God. You are in a difficult situation, and he sees the homeless people as a normal human being.
Struggling to find steady employment in his new home of New Mexico, Reynolds' challenges would turn into what he called a blessing when he opened a coffee house type of ministry here on Agua Fria in Santa Fe.
He was laid off from his hotel job, and at the time, one of a church friend told him that, well, this is a blessing in disguise because, I think you could start a full-time ministry.
A precursor to Joy Junction, his place grew into a men's shelter, then later a co-ed shelter, and ultimately a place to serve Santa Fe families facing the dire decision to pay rent or pay for groceries.
We hit the streets, and we slept behind Walmart for almost about 6 months. My wife too, she was begging me to go to church, and I didn't want to go to church. And I told her, well, let's just go to church to make fun of her. But I went to the restroom and smoked a couple more bowls of meth. Went to church to make fun of her. I told her, you know what, we should get baptized. And she goes, yeah, that's a good idea. So the kids got baptized first, she got baptized. I told God to hurry up and do what he has to do because I wanted to go back and smoke.
Joy Junction opened its doors in 1986 off a modest amount of capital and support from the community.
It's just a perfect time for Joy Junction at the time to have it in the South Valley, because it is the most time that needed for many families, that not only families, an individual also, and there's no other place to go. Everybody come to Joy Junction is broken, not only broken emotionally, but also broken spiritually. And the first thing that we want is to address them, to address their physical needs, and see if how we can help them emotionally and spiritually.
Residents of Joy Junction are encouraged to participate in the Christ in Power program, a 9-month rehabilitation that teaches responsibility, empowers sobriety, and helps participants reclaim their lives.
It's awesome to see somebody come in so rugged, so tore up, and then they come in and they join the program and they get their life back.
About 800 meals a day are distributed through Joy Junction, 600 of them here at the main campus, and another 200 off campus.
We have a food truck that goes out there in the community and feeds 200 hot meals and hot water, hygiene kit every day from 2 o'clock to 6 p.m.
In 2021, Joy Junction spent an estimated $1.3 million on food alone for the homeless, a major sticker price for an organization that receives 0 government subsidies.
I asked Dr. Reynolds, I asked him, well, Dr. Reynolds, how many days a week are we going to feed the people out there? And he was on his phone typing something. I can still see his little face, and he stopped typing, and then he looked at me and he says, Jen, how many days a week do you eat?
Food accounts for about 1/5 of Joy Junction's annual operating budget, which is $5.5 million.
And that's all based off of donations.
This means every penny comes from individual and church donations, philanthropic organizations, fundraising, and sales at their thrift store located just east of Carlisle on Menaul in Albuquerque.
So I love working here. It's a blessing.
For $1, you can't have that.
Brenda Hansen is the store manager, and while retail has been her bread and butter for years, she says working for Joy Junction's thrift store carries a deeper purpose.
I think you hear when you have people dropping off clothing, you're able to listen, actually give testimony. And I'm getting chills right now because you're listening to what they've gone through and how you can send them in the right direction, what their donations are going to, and just being able to talk with them and let them know what their items are going to, because a lot of people they're dropping off their their beloved's items, and they want to make sure they're going to somewhere that's going to really need them.
We're trying to keep that store full with stuff to attract new customers, to attract people to come, because everything that's in that store, every revenue that comes from that store goes back to filter to Joy Junction.
Well, I was living with my mom, but she gave me a few months because I wasn't really focused on getting a job. I would just stay home, play video games all day. So she gave me a few months to get a job, but I didn't really take it serious. So once it came around that time, I ended up getting kicked out.
Levine Roscos was homeless for nearly a month when he found his way to the shelter. Through their Christ in Power program, he found an initiative for change, which ultimately led him to work at the campus.
I was doing a little bit of the guard shack.
That job led him to work for the transportation department of the shelter, a position in which he thrived.
And then eventually I kept doing it for a few months, so my manager saw that I was dedicated, so she ended up asking me if I wanted a job, so I took it right away.
Levine has taken steps toward not just getting his life on track, but restoring the relationship with his family.
I've been seeing my mom a little more, helping her out with the kids, so it got back together. It's doing good.
I've always heard about Joy Junction, but I never was involved, and now I'm in this area, and I treasure it. It's something I can see myself growing more old until I'm actually retired in my 70s, until I stop.
About 90% of Joy Junction's budget comes from program services and fundraising, with just over 10% going toward administration, education, and general operating costs.
I would think the most surprising and stuff that's hard for us to budget for is our maintenance of our buildings and construction. We have, old facilities. We have a lot of, different things that need to be fixed and repaired, and we try to predict each year what projects we're going to do, but things happen throughout the year,
According to Angela, the organization receives nearly 2/3 of their annual budget between October through early January.
And after that, we kind of die off. on our donations. We still get donations monthly, and we still have, you know, a fair amount of monthly contributors, but I don't think people realize that the need doesn't stop after January.
Because Joy Junction is not subsidized by government or state, everything is, you know, by donation. Systems have to be in place. I was still a volunteer at the time, still a resident, but I would volunteer out at the warehouse a couple days a week from where I was volunteering, and it wasn't enough. Like, just one person helping out for a few hours a couple times a week isn't enough.
Leslie King works in the warehouse, processing in-kind donations made to the organization. She found her way to Joy Junction after facing homelessness for 4 months in the frigid temperatures of winter.
I'm a worker. You know, I've been on my own since I was 14. I've had 3 jobs almost my whole life. This is where I need to be. And I've always been super grateful and super involved in like helping with children that need help with their homework. Or I volunteered my time out at the front gate.
Volunteerism is just one component of how Joy Junction stays afloat. Community members can donate non-perishable food items to the shelter, gently used home goods and clothing to the thrift store, and even vehicles, which will find new homes or a second purpose at Joy Junction.
You know, it is a homeless shelter. It's not one of those super high-paying jobs, but the gratification, the personal reward that I get from doing what I do all day, it's like nothing I've ever done in my life. This is by far the best job I've ever had in my life.
Jeremy is like, as long as there is a room for improvement, he will go that. He's a kind of person that when there is more opportunity, more room to he believes that God wants him to refine himself better for the work that God has assigned to him to do.
Jeremy received his master's in communication and journalism and his doctorate in intercultural education, all while running the shelter. It should be no surprise then that hard work and self-improvement are core tenets of Joy Junction, giving the homeless a hand up, not a handout.
Jeremy was very adamant about tent cities. I mean, he fought hard to say they are not what we need and what any city need, not just Albuquerque. He did not believe in tent cities because you're not helping the people.
I was stubborn and I didn't want to yet.
Marcos's initial resistance to help isn't unique. In fact, a resident's desire to seek help is one of the biggest challenges in rehabilitation.
A lot of these people right now here in Albuquerque don't want help. You know, we're there, we could take them in, we have room at the shelter, and they don't want the help.
Some residents adopt the program and its help with little resistance. Others, like Marcos, literally have a come-to-Jesus moment that changes their lives forever.
I got baptized. I didn't feel anything until I got home. Right when I went into the bedroom to get my stuff, I just got scared, dumped all my stuff in the toilet, told her to get the F away from get out of the room. I started crying by the bed on the floor. Didn't know what was going on. I was just a panic, shock, scared. Something was just changing me. I didn't have no withdrawals, no addiction, I didn't want desire to smoke or drink anymore. The cigarettes, the weed, the meth, the alcohol was gone, and it scared me.
Some of the people have been on the street so long, they not only don't know how to live in society as a productive member of society, but it really scares them to even try. Being homeless on the street is very difficult. It's a full-time job. You're working it at least 18 hours a day, maybe 20. Who knows how much you're getting to sleep, or if you're even sleeping, because you're afraid to sleep. What can happen when you're asleep? We've been giving out chocolate for like a year and a half. We're almost out though now. Joy Junction saved my life. I'm finally at 64 living right and living good and really prospering. It's really awesome. Marriage, kids, work, finances, everything is good. And it's because of the program.
With 3 meals served daily to as many as 350 guests and residents, and household chores spread across 52 acres, the need for volunteers is always high. And while many residents volunteer their time, it's not enough. That's where the community's help comes in.
We accept volunteers every day. Anybody in the community wanting to come in and help us, they can come and help us with reading boot camp for our children. We have teachers that they come in here 2 or 3 times a week to help our children with their homework and reading and activities. We do have volunteers that come and help us with the grounds and the kitchen.
In 2015, the newlywed Reynolds were eyeing expansion of the property to better serve their residents and take care of the growing population in need. However, the price tag wasn't feasible for the nonprofit.
So we give up on that project, and just at the right time, I think it was 2 weeks after, this guy, he is a supporter of Joy Junction, and his company is like refurbishing or, renovating a house. That's his company is doing. So he has a connection in Aurora, Colorado, which there was available of this military quarters.
Those decommissioned barracks were then flipped into a 2-story residence that would provide private bathrooms, modest closet space, and lockers, giving a sense of privacy and dignity to people surviving on the streets. After a lifetime of serving others, it was one of Jeremy Reynolds' greatest and final achievements.
One day it was March, the last week of March 2016, he fainted coming out from the shower. Ambulance took us to Presbyterian downtown on that night, and a day before our first wedding anniversary, the doctor revealed to us that he is on his stage 3 esophageal cancer. When we hear the word cancer, it's like you're sentenced to death. And I was like, am I going to become a widow soon? So that's when the question started roaming in my mind, and I said, like, Lord, I remember when you talked to me and you said that you will use me and Jeremy in a way that we never imagined.
Jeremy's cancer metastasized to his intestines over the course of the next 2 years.
No one knows at that time because he doesn't want everybody to know that he is sick.
Throughout his battle with the disease, Jeremy never lost sight of his God-given calling. Right up until the end, his commitment was to the residents of Joy Junction.
I was just very close to him. When he was in the hospital, I would go there weekly. He would sign checks. We would talk about Joy Junction because he still cared, even though he knew he didn't have long, and, he was fighting so hard. He still was there for Joy Junction,
It hurts when you see your husband laying on bed and dying, and you're only waiting for the day. I realize now why God bring me to his life. That's why I told him, God must really love you so much, because he knew, because God knows the beginning and the end. He knew in this part of your life this will gonna happen, and he doesn't want you to be alone.
The Bible says
Would like to continue Dr. Jeremy's mission of love for the less fortunate. It is a very rewarding job. When I go home, I feel like I helped someone.
I'm getting ready to celebrate me and my wife's wedding anniversary. We've been together 32 years. So I'm taking her to Los Cabos here in a week. And I never thought I could do that. From us doing nothing, from God allowing us to do this. I married my wife with a $5 ring. And for him to come in my life and to do this for me, and to show me how much he loves me, I still don't deserve it. I don't deserve that type of love, what he's showing me.
Our vision will remain the same, to help people, to feed, to shelter, to give them clothing, and most of all, to give them an encouragement with the love of Jesus Christ.
I'm blessed to have a home where I can go into my own bedroom and lay in my comfortable bed. And most of the time, we don't appreciate what we have. And that's something that this ministry has showed me and changed my heart about human beings.
I just love the organization, and I truly loved working with Jeremy. So, but working here is definitely gives you a purpose, makes you feel good at the end of the day for what you do.
And I will choose you again and again. If God will make another time for you and me to meet, I will choose you again. Because I have a role in your life. God have a reason for me in your life. And yeah, it was hard, but you know, when you have the Lord in your life, it's impossible. Impossible will become possible. You can really move mountains. And I know that everything happened for a reason.